I am Andrew
That's what I love.
Mr. Mallard. Join me as always, Mr. Chief of Morale himself, Bud Copeland. Bud, how are you this evening before we get
So the point being is good golfers are a fucking dime a dozen. And we saw it in full swing that the line of demarcation between...
Are you ready, Bud? Are you ready for the players? Are you ready to make money? Are you ready to try to beat me?
I didn't do my homework this week.
It's Tuesday night. Divots and pivots, you know what that means here on Fantasy Sports Corporation Tea Time. Tuesday, and we're down to 30. It's Tour Championship Week. Ryder Cup's on the horizon. Tons of drama involved in that. Who should be in, who should be out. We got our 6 auto bids locked in at this point. Lots to get to. But as always, first and foremost, I am Andrew LeDuc, a.k.a. Mr. Mallard. And this fine fellow next to me here, Bud Copeland. How are you tonight at This Bud's For You?
I am phenomenal. As I like to say, morale is high. There was some incredible freaking golf this weekend to geek out. Look at me pulling a notebook out because that's how deep we've gotten into this. No, but I mean, obviously we're going to talk about the BMW. That was just, as I said this morning, banana land stuff from Victor Hovland on the back nine. He blacked out, full on just 8 threes and a 4. And I loved it when I saw Matty Fitzpatrick in his little press conference. He was like, yeah, no, I told him, I called him a little shit. And I mean, because he's true. And Scotty Scheffler even said it too. He's like, what are you going to do? Guy shoots 61. You can't deal with that. It's kind of like when Kobe would go into one of those zones and black out and throw up 60 points. It was fun to watch. Pissed me off because it knocked me out of my other league's final 8. So we do a similar kind of like paring it down. The top, I think there's 28 teams or 26 teams. Top 16 make the playoffs, and then it goes down to 12. Then it goes down to 8. And I was at 10 coming into the week. I hitched my wagon to Rory McIlroy, and holy dog shit.
It was looking good to start on Sunday.
Now, I'll say this, though. Horses for courses. He's won twice in the last 3, 4, 5 years, something like that. Only person to do. I mean, he holds all. He's the Tiger of the FedEx Cup, which is weird to say since Tiger kind of owned it early on. It was the next thing that they rolled out in front of him, and he just dominated that too. But because of the purse sizes growing and just the change of the format, Rory all of a sudden, and the longevity of it, Rory all of a sudden has all these records of lowest under par, most wins, or most money, and all that kind of shit. So I don't count him out because last year he came from, I think, 6 back was his position, or 5 back. This year it's 3 back. So if you want to tell me just the way those guys are playing, and Victor caught lightning in a bottle. If he even kind of, it's a personal best for him. So I mean, it's not like one of those things. It does push your brain there where you just get hungry for the feeling every time, right? But I just don't see him doing the back-to-back thing. I think he peaked. And I think either Scotty's going to figure it out with his putter as well, or Rory's going to figure out or somebody like Xander, who a couple of years ago went way low and lost by a stroke or two because of the way that they start this week. But I'm getting ahead of myself. It was a fun BMW championship. It was awesome. If you didn't catch the USAM, sneaky good story. In the final there, Nick Dunlap, this kid from Alabama, he's like 19 years old, hardworking youngster, talks about grinding all the time. U.S. Junior Am winner in 2021, and he won this weekend to be the only other player besides Tiger to win both the U.S. Junior Am and the Amateur. And he was going up against a guy, Neil Shipley, who was kind of shapely, so to speak, for a male physique. He had a little bit around the midsection, but he wore it well. And he had this long hair. He was from Pennsylvania. Arnold Palmer won it out here and is the last player from Pennsylvania to win it. So there was all these sub storylines going on, and old Nick took Neil to the woodshed there on Sunday. On the second 18, they were tied after the first 18. But the bigger story, and he immediately said it, was this kid, Nick, who, by the way, on social media just now I saw that he was posing with the other Nick at Alabama, Nick Saban. I guess he's making his tour with the Havemeyer Trophy already. But he said it right out. He's like, on day one, after 7 holes, I was 5 over par. He started out this this match play turn or the stroke play, birdie, and then I think it was like par, and then he went like triple bogey, par, double bogey, and then a bogey 2 holes after that. So he was just sitting there. And folks, at this level of golf, you genuinely can't spare those kind of strokes unless you can have the pendulum swing the other way as well, which he did. And rumor has it, have you ever seen Julian Edelman when they do the mic'd up session on the 28-3 comeback? It's going to be a hell of a story,
yes.
bro. Right? So I guess his caddy, in the notebook on the 8th hole, so this kid's 5 over through 7, writes a little note similar to that, like, this is going to be one hell of or the comeback starts here. It's going to be one hell of a comeback, or this is going to be a story they're going to tell. And what do you know? He comes back with like 5 more birdies on the day, shoots, I think, 1 over or shoots even par there, and then over even par again to make the cut pretty much on the number. And then he goes through and wins this thing. So he's an impressive kid from Alabama. I loved the Shipley story. He's at Ohio State, kind of a grad transfer situation after 3 years at a smaller college named after a dead president. So the USAM was fire. And actually, what brought that up is because right before the show, right before we started, the show, good show, bro. Right before we started, I mentioned your favorite guy, Bryson. And I can't believe
it. Yeah, my favorite guy.
Well, did you see that he made a cameo at the USAM?
I did see that. I saw a picture of him posing next to the picture of himself holding the trophy, which I thought was just all right. I get it. Honestly, if I was him and I was there and stumbled upon that, and I'm there hanging out, I'm not there on a professional basis. Sure, I get it. Take a picture. So I'm not going to necessarily call him a douchebag for that or anything like I do in most other cases.
No, it's just weird.
But it is a little weird. It's funny.
They had a persimmon driving driver out there for the guys to try to drive the green. That's the story. If you don't know, Cherry Hills is where they were out in Colorado. Mm-hmm. Arnold Palmer, 1960, famously only won 1 U.S. Open, and it was there. He shot 65 in the final round after driving the first green. So there's a whole monument set up to him in that. And that was kind of, I'll tell you what, too, that was one hell of a sight for match play, because that first hole, now all the matches that would go into extra holes would just start right at 1. And what a great a short par 4. I mean, there's really no danger anywhere. I don't think you can go a mile right. But I mean, these guys were missing long and left, long and left, long and left. That was kind of the trend, because then they had green to work with coming back the other way. And it was incredible to see how many of these matches went to extra holes, which talks about the caliber of play when you get up that high. And then not only that, I guess just the way that this whole thing unfolded with, like I said, Neil Shipley being from Pennsylvania, the locals freaking bought into him. He was a likable guy, and I do wish him well, because he was a fun guy to watch. He plays fast, grabs it, hits it, goes after it. So anyway, there's your ramblings of an old man on the U.S. Amateur while you were watching the BMW. So what did you think about the BMW? How did you consume it? What were your thoughts going into it? And who won the fantasy? I haven't even checked.
So I barely won by 3 points, I think. Over it was close this week between me and you. So it's going to come down to this tour championship. I think in the end, and I'll have the final scores for us after this week, but I believe I have 120 point lead over you. So it'll.
It's appropriate. That's how they start the FedEx Cup playoffs. They spot strokes based on the overall performance. I get it. I probably owe you that throughout the year. I'm more of a boom or bust guy.
Yeah, that's fine. But hey, my biggest takeaway here is that I need to step up to the plate here and say Victor Hovland shutting me up after weeks ago me calling him a choke artist because he seems to fail on Sundays in the limelight in the big moments of these tournaments. He saved it all for this week, for this Sunday. So hey, Victor Hovland, good for you. I'm happy
everybody knows Victor Hovland, big friend of the show.
But
your
he hated my guts. So
I was going to ask you about that, because there was the Hovland hangover that you asked about immediately after he won the Memorial, and then we did talk about his and that's what's funny is during his interview, we were talking about his lack of performing at the majors, and he was seeing his performances as, positive steps in the right direction. They talked about his short game adjustments that he made, and it was kind of wonky, and we can talk about it off the camera because it's not good, entertaining content at all. But it was interesting to hear how that was the only thing that was missing with these like kind of around the green shots.
Mm-hmm.
Anywho, so what else is going on out in the golf world?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously we got Ryder Cup coming up. I think that we could talk about the Ryder Cup and who should be in and who should be out for about an hour here. But the main things that we need to know, I guess, to talk about here is Brooksy's technically out as of right now.
Yeah, he's a bubble boy.
He's a bubble boy. He's going to have to rely on a captain's pick here, which we kind of expected. We said that was mostly going to be the case a couple weeks ago, just with the way the points were looking and how bottlenecked it was there. But it's all interesting now because we still got Lucas Glover playing hot. JT, who's not playing right now, he's on that bubble. Ricky Fowler's kind of fading. I mean, this feels like there's 6 picks, and it feels like there's 10 or 12 guys here who you can make an argument for. And here's what I'm afraid this is happening. I feel like at the beginning of the year, everyone was saying this is going to be an easy win Ryder Cup for the U.S. team. But things feel like it's a little in shambles right now. Not in shambles, that's too strong a word. But as far as
that's aggressive,
it can go in so many different directions here, depending on who they pick. Where so much is riding on these captain picks, it could really hurt them in the end. Seems like the European team is pretty locked up. This is going to be interesting, I think.
I mean, I
still think Brooksy needs to be in.
I do too, because, well, I mean, also these guys are smart and they talked and they know, who's a good fit for the course and who's not. But I think for the team and the mentality, and he's a killer and he has played well. Yeah. He did win a major. So I guess it's going to be, and people got to understand too, these guys all hang out down in Jupiter, when they do have time, or they all play at the same clubs and are friendly. Like I don't think there's any bad blood out there for or against Brooksy. The question is though, he did just have a kid. His baby. Yep, congratulations, Brooksy. And it was premature, 6 weeks, but I guess it's healthy. And I think it's a he. Anyways, it is healthy. Congratulations, little Brooksy. And so is he, but point being, is he in like a competitive, headspace, or, I mean, he's a professional is probably what he would say. And, but that's something I heard brought up. The top 6 are, just to recap: Scotty Scheffler, Wyndham Clark, Brian Harman, Patrick Cantlay, Max Homa, which that's a story. Talk about a turnaround. He was, we were talking about him a couple months ago. He was just head in the clouds.
Yeah, and so it feels like he kind of quietly hung around these rankings, and maybe it's because we had so many expectations on him to be doing better than he was doing. Didn't mean he was doing bad, but that might have been a bit of, at least on my part, a little, I guess, overhyping him in my head to where no matter what he did, it wasn't going to be enough.
Well, I mean,
Max Homa was there.
He won at Fortinet. He won at the Farmers. So I mean, he won twice earlier. So he set up those expectations. 6 at the Players, Wells Fargo top 10, Charles Schwab top 10, top 10 at the Open. I mean, and that's kind of where he turned it around, because I think we saw him miss the cut at the U.S. Open and the Travelers, and 55th at the PGA. So I guess that those like higher edge tournaments, except for the Players again, the Players, that 6th place finish. But then he went the 43rd at the Masters, missed the cut at the RBC, 55th at PGA. Yeah, so he did start stumbling there, and I think that's what made us lose confidence. But I guess all those you got those 2 wins early and a lot of top 10s, and so it just, I think, like you said, our expectations, or my expectations at least, were a little bit misleading, I guess, for myself. Xander Schauffele rounds out the top 6, and Xander's another guy that this week is going to be dangerous because, like I said earlier, he loves Eastlake. So that's a good top 6. Brooksy, got to have him. Jordan Spieth, got to have him. And then it gets interesting. Cam Young, I don't think so. I don't think he's this is not the current form you want him in when he breaks in his rookie Ryder Cup experience. You want Ryder Cup rookies to either have already earned their way on there, which means de facto they're playing good enough, or they're just on some sort of heater the last 6 weeks, kind of like a Tony Finau a couple years back right before
Sure.
Paris. He was just kind of like all of a sudden peaking a little bit, and it was kind of a no-brainer. That's what I would say about Keegan Bradley, maybe, is he's put himself in that position. I disagree with you on Ricky. I think Ricky gets along with these guys so well, and he's playing really well this year. You know, he finally did win, and it was recently. It's not like he won earlier this year, and we're looking back on it going, you know, he did have a good year overall, but maybe not like he's actually still kind of on that upswing.
I still think Ricky gets in. Like, I just think, given the grouping of guys who have a chance, I do still think Ricky gets in here. But there's definitely, I'd say, 10 guys here that are vying for 6 spots. Because I cut it off at Lucas Glover's the last guy who's ranked 16th right now in the Ryder Cup standings. He's kind of the last guy that I would even look at to fill out this team.
I've heard arguments for JT again for the whole like kind of like
JT's at 15, so he's still in there for me.
You think so?
So he's an option for me. I'm not saying he's a lock, but I do consider JT still an option.
I think you got to put him in there. Him and Jordan Spieth are so dadgum good together. They've proven that. It's kind of one of those. If again, I think he was close enough when we were talking like millimeters away from making the playoff, and then who knows what. So I mean, I think you have to for the dynamics of it all. And so you got JT, Ricky Bobby Keegan for me, Spieth and Brooksy. And so I got one spot left. And quite frankly,
go ahead.
I think you go with Lucas Glover. I think he's an old horse who just found that step again. And it's like, he's mature, he's experienced. He's been there, done that with the President's Cup and the Walker Cup as an amateur. And so I do think that he's kind of earned a spot in there. After that, there's nothing really that rolls my socks up and down. Denny McCarthy, again, he's a wonderful player. And, you know.
So the one thing
he's not going to Eastlake, though. I think that's the only problem for me.
Well, yeah, and the one thing I want to get your take on here is, like, when it comes to filling out the Ryder Cup team with these captains picks, are there some guys that are going to get in because of a specialty part of their game that they're just like above and beyond better than others at, like Denny McCarthy, for instance, who was an amazing putter? Like, do you bring a guy on like that just because he's so good in a very specific section of his game, or are you just looking for the most balanced guys in the most balanced form at the time?
That's interesting because I've actually heard that argument for Colin Morikawa being a ball striker of ball strikers, and he's actually is he at Eastlake? Yeah, he's there. He's 7,700, so he's barely there, but he's highly owned. 2250 is what he's looking like. So he's the only other guy that you could convince me. I don't think I would pick him first just because I mean the way my brain works. But when the question you're asking, because also we're talking about Ryder Cup, we haven't won. I just hit the wall. We have not won over there since 1993. So when it comes to playing there, 6 or 7. I mean, we're awful on foreign soil. So do you want the strategic approach like you're talking about? Like, let's find ball strikers or putters or who's got a good up and down game because the bunkers, the way they're set up, that kind of stuff. Or do we just want, like kind of like street brawlers, which I think you need a group of street brawlers to go over there. Because if the weather could have an effect, there's definitely the crowd atmosphere. After the way we treated them at where the hell was it? Whistling Straits.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up too because that is something where the crowd does tend to get more into it.
I don't mean treated them in a bad way. I mean, like we brought the heat and it was loud. It was aggressive. Heat,
yeah. But like typically your European crowds are your more like kind of old school traditional quieter crowds if it's just like a regular golf tournament, over there for just something wherever. But for the Ryder Cup, they're going to get themselves up for that, and it's not going to be the waste management rowdy or anything like that. But it's not going to be far off. I don't think.
I don't think it's going to be far off at all because also Brian Harmon went on some podcasts. Obviously, the podcast tour. We still have the invite out. I haven't heard back yet, but he was saying how. We all heard about the story of the one guy. You don't have the stones to win it. And I mean, because he even said, because that's kind of the most PG thing that the TV could run with. He's like the stuff that was coming out of their mouths, especially the day that he was playing with Tommy Fleetwood, who again, local guy from up the street.
Sure.
And, he said it was ugly. He's like, it was bad. He goes, but it was also motivation. And he also kind of understood it because he's the foreigner, you're going to root for the home guy. But as far as like, and I think it was Colton Oster, another one of the announcers, was talking about like they were a little disappointed in some of the language and the behavior, especially because the Open Championship is supposed to, like you said, they're supposed to be the sophisticated golf fans who, only applaud when it's a really good shot, or, they do the golf clap and it's very classy and mellow. We've got yes, sir, and, just loud, uproarious. That's just the style. And so to your point, I do think it's going to get rowdy in Rome at Marco Simone. And I think that's how you say it. I think it is Simone. And I've heard that twice.
Is that it? Okay.
I hate that it is. I think it should just be Marco Simone, but that also sounds like a blues singer from the 30s.
Yeah, Simone definitely sounds more Roman.
Or we're just being ignorant as hell with that pronunciation, which if we are, total apologies. Don't cancel us. Not when we're hitting our peak. So I think to wrap up the Ryder Cup talk, I think we're kind of, it is almost naturally falling into place. I've heard arguments for Sam Burns because he's kind of found it a little bit recently, last couple of weeks. But other than that, it's, Lucas, JT, Ricky, Keegan, and Brooksy, but then Jordan. Sorry, those are my six. If anything, if there's internal politics that we don't know about, or there's bad blood or whatever, I could see swapping out Brooksy for Colin Morikawa. I almost think that would be seen as a slight to Liv. And I don't know if you caught Jay Moynihan's or Monahan's press conference, and he's basically, he's 100% certain, confident, whatever. I always take, so I just rolled right through that. He was asked about the Liv, the Liv non-merger PIF PGA kind of, shindig going down. And is he confident that they'll actually get it done, or, that they're going to complete it? And, he said he's 100% confident, we're close, all that kind of stuff. But then I think I brought this up before. I'm reminded of the athletic directors at these big colleges that we got 100% confidence in coach. He's our guy. We're rolling with him. Yeah. And then that's just the precursor. That's like the subtle hint to the comms department. Get the memo ready. We're firing him on Monday.
Exactly. Yeah, that happens every year. So people are still fascinated by it. Sorry, bug just landed right on my nose.
Your microphone sounds weird. Static. Could be my headphones too. I don't know.
Is that better?
I don't know.
So it is. My microphone's a little bit closer to my computer than normal, and I think you can hear my laptop fan. I think that's what it is.
No,
but either way,
good conversation though.
Either way, is there anyone in the top six that qualified already that you're not 100% confident with? Out of those, Scheffler, Clark, Harmon, Cantley, Homa, and Xander. And I'm not posing this question as in a way that's me saying, is there anyone you think doesn't deserve to have qualified because they've earned it, so they deserve it?
I kind of get
but
what
is
you're
there
saying,
anybody that you're not necessarily confident in this type of setting?
No. Absolutely not. Patrick Cantley's built for match play. Brian Harmon is playing like that right now. I mean, ice in his veins. He was up there chasing last week as well. Wyndham Clark finally kind of clicked and got it together a little bit. I was disappointed in Sunday, but a little bit. And then Scotty. He leads the world in strokes gained, everything. But to your point earlier, we thought it was going to be a walk in the park, but the Team Europe, with who they already have locked in, John Rahm, Roy McIlroy, Victor Hovland. Already those three. That's pretty fucking impressive. And then you go on down, Robert McIntyre, which for those who don't remember, he was the guy who Rory broke his heart. It's in Scotland at the Genesis Scottish Open. He had a magnificent 234-yard 3-wood, cut 3-wood to 5 feet, makes the birdie on a hole that nobody had birdied all day. And then Rory comes right on top of him with that 2-iron from 207 into the wind, little roller up there to 10 feet. It was beautiful. So Bobby McIntyre, who is tough, Tommy Fleetwood and Tyrrell Hatton. And Tyrrell, who was a bubble boy. If you didn't see that footage, go back and look him up. There's a great video of him in the locker room, and a PGA Tour officials walking up to him and being like, "Hey, Tyrrell," and Tyrrell's just pissed. He just wants to get the fuck out of there. And
you're talking about this weekend when he's trying to tell him that he's in the top 30, still in the top 30. Yeah, go ahead, because I love that you brought that up. I was going to bring it up next, anyways. Go ahead.
Sorry, say that again.
I was going to go ahead, continue with that story. I just want to make sure we're on the same page because I definitely want to talk about that too.
I gotta know if this static I'm hearing is just from my headphones or if it's your microphone. We got to figure this out. And then the Tyrrell story is wonderful. So if you're listening on the podcast, go ahead and skip ahead. Like go ahead and click that like 13 or 15-second jump button, and eventually, it'll come back to real golf talk. In the meantime, if you didn't see the Tyrrell Hatton video, go look it up. He's pissed off as hell. He's grumpy Tyrrell because as the way he put it, he feels like he played well enough this entire year to make it to East Lake. And so then all of a sudden with the quadruple points in the FedEx Cup playoffs, he's like 2 kind of shaky weeks. And all of a sudden now I'm not going to make it. And he was kind of pissed off. And I get that perspective. But then this PGA Tour official's like, hey, buddy, like I need to brief you on the FedEx Cup playoffs. And he's like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be there, mate. And it was very kind of dismissive. He's like, all right, cool. Still, can I, he's like, you're 29th right now. And then he starts to explain it to him. He's like, Spieth's behind you. And really, if somebody jumps in, it's most likely going to bump him out, not you. And then all of a sudden, Sepp Straka shit the bed and both of them are in. But it was highly entertaining because Spieth's over there with Michael Greller. And Spieth's like pacing and like, oh my God. And he's like, what if I made it? And he was talking about like the putt on 18, not necessarily. And they're like, well, it might have made a little difference. And then they start doing the calculations. And turns out if like Adam Schenk makes 2 birdies, he'll jump the leaderboard, which will take points away from. It's like, it was impressive to see the difference in their attitudes. And they're both going to be there next week. So
in the end.
I think that Tyrrell Hatton, Tommy Fleetwood, what he did with Molinari a couple of years ago, I think Molinari is going to might be a captain's pick. I don't know really what his form is, but he's kind of like their version of JT in the sense of in that environment, he's got a natural partner who I think they went 5-0 in Paris. You almost have to bring that pair back.
See, I feel like I haven't seen or heard much about from Molinari at all this year. Like, I feel like it's almost like he's just not existed this year.
I think I want to say he might have spent most of his time overseas at the DP World Tour, but at the same time, he could have. I know he showed up a little bit at the Masters, right, and the other majors. So
he tends to there. Yep,
he did what?
Sorry, there's a dog barking.
Yeah. Is that what happened? Is that what's happening?
I'm sorry for my audio. I don't know what's going on. You know what? I fear that when I went to the Fantasy Expo, I dropped my mic at one point, and I fear that I might have damaged it on the interior, and maybe that's where the static is coming from. So we'll have to keep testing it out in the future. So I apologize for all those listening if you're hearing the static that Bud's hearing. I'm sorry,
man.
My mic might be damaged from dropping it at the expo. It might just be what it is.
I think you might be better off using just like the microphone from the computer.
You think so? Here, we can try that. Hold on.
Let's
talk
go
for
with
a second.
We'll act like it's an
ears
interview.
Of the masses.
Oh God, what a clown car clusterfuck of a circus this has become. We're going to get off the Ryder Cup and get back onto the PGA Tour here in just a minute. Long story short, JT is going to be good for the soul. So is Lucas Glover. So is Ricky. Brooksy may or may not be in there. He definitely dropped outside of that top 6 like we thought he was going to. And now we all turn our attention to a place that Brooksy is not going to be. Oh, actually, before we do, and Andrew, can you still hear me while you're trying to work on your audio issues over there? If not, you should. This is why I brought up Bryson has actually released. He just dropped it out there on social media. He's releasing merch from his 58 recently. Like I think he's trying to brand himself as like Mr. 58, which Jim Furyk would take umbrage with, which is a nice word, umbrage. But I think I'm going to buy you that for Christmas is a Bryson DeChambeau Mr. 58 t-shirt. What size?
So
medium?
I can hear you now. I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
No, this is the most mind-boggling thing in the world. We're gonna find out on pretty shortly here.
No, how about now?
Whoa, technical difficulties, and we're at like DEF CON. I never understood how DEF CON worked. I always forget about it. I think I got to remember, like in war games, that the little counter goes down. I got to look that up. DEF CON. This is some good podcasting right here, folks.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
No, and that's why I'm wondering. I'm genuinely wondering now if it's like my headphone jack or something.
Now. Can you hear me now? We're gonna have to use the staticky microphone, I guess, because none of my other options you can hear me.
Man, error. It was all on my side. I think I had a bad headphone jack. I think this one's on me.
What, is this working now?
Yeah, it sounds fine to me.
Are you kidding? Oh my god, this has been riveting podcast entertainment here, guys.
So this is the stuff we're gonna clip, right? This is the stuff we're gonna bring back.
Oh, I love it. Okay, well, you were letting me worried that I like damaged my mic when in my travels. So
I'm so sorry. I mean,
you.
and so hopefully, if you stuck around this long, fucking comedy of errors. I feel terrible because in true me fashion, the problem couldn't be with me; it had to be you.
Well, I'll give you a second here to fix your headphones, although it seems like they're fixed. While we listen to Underdog, and then when we get back, we can start breaking down the Tour Championship, who our picks are, where you can save some money, and where you should be placing your bets this week. We'll be right back.
Fantasy Sports Corp and Underdog Fantasy have teamed up to start your fantasy season off in the win column with Best Ball. What is Best Ball? It's quite simply the easiest way to win. No team management, no trades, no waivers. It's their biggest contest ever and it has only gotten bigger. You simply have to sit and win. You don't even have to set your lineup. Always get your best score every week. Just enter a contest, draft your team, and Underdog will do the rest. What could make this even better? How about free money, up to $100 using our exclusive promo code? Go online now and use the promo code DIVPIV to double your deposit up to $100. You tell them Gingerbread sent you. Good girl.
We are back, I think. Are we back, bud?
I would first like to apologize to my wife and my daughter, everybody on the team over there at Underdog and Fantasy Sports Corporation, especially. That was a massive, massive dumper of an error on Boudreaux. And so I'm never afraid to admit when I'm wrong. It just never has happened before. So if this sounds like it's a little rambling, it's because, like I said, there's a first for everything. No, you
were wrong about this. I was wrong about Hovland. We're both admitting our error. We're all good. It's all good, man.
It's about growth here on Divots and Pivots. It's really about, like we talked about, it's about pivoting from the bad into the good, finding the silver lining. And before we actually get into East Lake, so we're in Atlanta.
Ooh.
All right, yes. East Lake and Atlanta. Two things. First of all, that's where the East Lake hat. This is a Travis Matthews East Lake Golf Club hat that my brother-in-law got me for Christmas last year. Yeah, no, he also got me the wallet to match, so that's pretty sweet.
Ooh.
Yeah, I fanboyed out a little bit because I love the place. I never got over there when I was living in the area. I never tried to go to the tournament or anything like that. I probably could have, probably still could. But anyways, it's in Atlanta, somebody who's probably going to be in attendance, especially because of the recent news, is Arthur Blank from Your World, the owner of the Falcons. And they just announced that he is going to be the owner of the TGL Indoor Golf League franchise for Hotlanta, which
and that's the third team, right? That they've gotten now. So the third or fourth?
Third. We got the Williams sisters, I believe, and a partner out in LA. The Fenway Group is going to own the team for Boston. Yep. Now, notice I didn't say in LA or in Boston. I said for, and there's a reason for that. And Arthur Blank is going to own whatever franchise Atlanta is representing. But in the Golf Digest article that I was just kind of peeking about and reading up on, they said that this is one of the questions I've had this whole time is how the fuck is this going to work? It's like video game golf. They also announced like Top Golf is going to be their official like tech partner. So I guess they're going to use whatever sensors and setup that Top Golf, and it's probably going to be obviously a customized version of that. But they're building a facility down at like Palm Beach State or something down there in South Florida, and that's where all the competition is going to happen. So there's a reason why team golf is not working at LIV, and it's not because of Greg Norman. It's not because we don't like team golf. We just stumbled backwards, through 20 minutes of static talk, sprinkled in with a little bit of Ryder Cup, and because there's a team aspect to it. But we identify with the places these teams actually operate, right? We are Americans, or USA, all that kind of happy horse shit. And the same thing applies for pro franchises in other sports. Obviously, there's a reason why people in this area love the Celtics. Duh. If the competition isn't actually going to take place in these cities, other than having like really great watch parties, like what are they going to do? How do you actually build a sense of identity if you're always on an away game? Like that's, there is no home team. So I'm still a little skeptical of that. I don't know how they're going to balance that, because I do think that it's just going to be another, shitty TV show that flames out, even if it is Tiger Woods. I mean, let's remember Larry Bird, I guess, even after taking the Pacers to the playoffs, like shit the bed as a coach, or Michael Jordan, same kind of thing. He was a terrible coach. So not everybody's built for, all aspects of whatever operation they're in. So I don't know. I'm skeptical of this. It's going to be primetime golf starting next year after the Super Bowl wraps. And I guess it's going to try to not take on, but I guess it's either going to be opposite Monday Night Football or a complement to it somehow. There's probably going to be some sort of TV deal with NBC, or they might even go streaming, because again, who the hell knows how this is all.
Maybe they can be like LIV and just get on CW. That would be lucrative, right?
That's another problem, is they took a TV deal with a brand that I don't know if that was going to be their big splash or foray into sports, or somebody can correct me if you're a TV historian, but like CW, I just don't think of like, oh, I'm going to catch the game on CW. I mean, WGN, everybody remembers that. That was the National Chicago affiliate. Obviously, the Big Four, and then ESPN is a sport. So, I mean, you go on down the line. That'd be like, did you catch the Tour de France? Yeah, it was on HGTV. What? I mean,
exactly, yeah.
Content's content, but your brand is your brand. And so, I don't know. I mean, CW probably just like the players. They just took the bag. I don't think it was much of a revenue generator for LIV as much as they bought they paid to be on there.
Yeah, it was a checkbox that they could check off at the time, saying that they got a network deal. And that's all they were.
We know for that. I'm just saying, like, what was in it for the CW? Did they really think they were going to take away?
They weren't.
All right.
No,
that's enough. That's enough LIV talk. But that's the counterpunch to LIV, and that's why I'm very curious about how I'm very curious, incredibly curious. No, I'm curious about how this LIV, or not LIV, the PIF PGA merger, non-merger deal is going to shake out, because you've got Tiger's on the board. He's got this product that is team golf, but he could also be taking it from the mentality of it's just totally different thing. So obviously, I don't give a shit if LIV lives or dies. Like, what we're doing is unique and new in its own right. Do you have any interest in TV golf? Or let me rephrase that. Sorry. Whatever this is going to be, like Top Golf with pros, that kind of shit. It's not going to be Top Golf either.
So that's the thing. Like there's still so much I need to know about the format of what this is going to look like for me to really, to really answer that. So my answer right now is, at this point, am I interested? Yes. Is part of that interest still just because of the unknown? And yeah. So we'll see what it looks like. I might watch it and be like, this is nice try, guys, but let's just stick to the golf course. But so we'll see. But I'm interested enough to check it out for sure, especially if it's now, because the way that this is lining up great for me, a Monday night where I get to watch a short form version of golf and Monday Night Football. Like, that's a beautiful Monday to me.
That's a good point.
If it's successful, that sounds great. So like, I don't even view it as them going against Monday Night Football. I view it, you mentioned, like a pure compliment.
And actually, as I'm on their website right now, and I tried to play the curmudgeon role. I tried to play the kind of like the bad guy to be like, it's not gonna work. It's gonna fucking die.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at these players, and so here's who's in right now: Tiger Woods, duh, Rory McIlroy, duh. But then you got John Rahm, Justin Thomas, Ricky Fowler, Colin Morikawa, Xander Schauffele, Justin Rose, Matty Fitzpatrick. That was a surprise to me. Max Homa, Adam Scott, and Billy Horschel. And all I could think to myself, with the exception of Billy Horschel, I watch these guys on their social media. I watch them when they play in the John Deere Classic. I'm gonna watch them in this, and I might actually, because they're probably gonna be mic'd up, and there's probably gonna be side bets going on.
See, that's what I want to hear. I want to hear all that.
And I kind of think that they're gonna throw an element of trick shottery. I don't think it's just gonna be a straight up, let's go play on the sim, and then just have this really fancy indoor short game facility to kind of mimic that aspect of it.
Yeah, like if you lose the bet on this shot here, then the next shot, no matter where you are in the hole, you got to use your putter or something silly like that. Like I could see
I was gonna say, like you lose a toe or something.
Lose a toe. But look, the mic'd up aspect is definitely something that I think is going to be interesting. I think it's going to achieve the same environment that. Here's the thing. I think this indoor short form mic'd up version is going to achieve exactly what Liv was looking to achieve, but in a completely different way. Like that's one thing. Like Liv missed the boat.
I think Liv thinks of themselves as bigger than this. And so earlier when I was saying like I don't think Tiger 100%. Cares. But I mean, like I think they think that their product is maybe this might be just a purely unique new kind of product. I don't think it's gonna be that. I think it's just gonna be kind of pros playing on simulators, which again, people tune in, watch people hit on social media.
It's off-season content, but I think here's the difference. I think Tiger and Rory and the rest of the people who were behind this, I think they understand that it's off-season content, that it's strictly entertainment, that it's just meant to keep golf in the storylines even longer throughout the year. Like they're not trying to be getting world golf rankings. They're not trying to do anything here. Like this is just meant to be fun for both them and the viewer.
I am curious about because when you just said the key phrase off season, not really. If this does kick off, quote unquote, pun intended, it kicks off
the
after
start of the
Super
season,
Bowl.
technically.
Yeah,
we're kind of getting.
All right, now we're getting ahead of ourselves. We're speculating on shit that we
no, but you are right. Off season was the wrong word to use, but I think you knew.
No,
I
wasn't criticizing you for that. I was even thinking to myself of like, are these guys really going to go from like finishing Sunday night at the Waste Management to hopping in their private jets and flying out to Palm Beach State to play Monday night for? I don't know. I'm still leery. I would like to see it come to fruition because what you said earlier. With it achieved what Liv was trying to. I do think that getting as close to the players, like this kind of access, because Liv wanted that. They wanted that kind of engagement, but then I also don't think they wanted not the politics, but the the politics of it all, because all it takes is a couple of unruly fans to say the wrong thing, and it just makes it awkward for everybody. But TGL coming to you soon.
You make a good point, though, about it. Would they want to finish up Sunday and then go right into playing this on Monday? But
or do they meet there as this pre-taped shit? Which, if it's pre-taped, then I'm not watching for damn sure. Like that's
pre-taped. I'm not interested in pre-taped. I want the current storylines involved in all of it. The trash talk, like that's what's going to make it. But what could be interesting here is what if the courses they play on that, like on Monday night, like the simulator, what the hell they're going to call it? Because I bet you they come up with another fancy word other than simulator. Like I bet you, like, what if they played the course that's on tap for that week, for that week's event, almost like a preview to that week's course?
No, I think you and I are overthinking it. Like I look at the mock-up they released, and it does look like they're just going to be. It's going to be more statistical in numbers like that. I mean, you know what would be fun is like over-unders. Like, say setting a yardage, because these guys are that like
skills competition.
I think there might be an element to that. Speaking of skills competitions, I watched over the weekend a little bit of the Savannah Bananas road tour when they were at the Portland Stadium, Hadlock Field. I'm in. I'm so pissed at myself for not going when they were in Brockton or whatever.
So I tried to get tickets to me and all my friends, me and the guys. We tried to get tickets for when they were up here in this area in New England. They were impossible to get. They were sold out so fast, and then the tickets on the secondary market were like 4 times the price. It was ridiculously expensive, but they are. I remember a couple of years ago first seeing them on TikTok and thinking they were hilarious. They have like the Savannah Bananas are the one thing you brought up, the team aspect of how team sports only works when you can have like a home base where people can like buy into that. The Savannah Bananas are the only kind of team based sport that has surpassed the need for that. So sure, they are named the Savannah Bananas. They are from Savannah, Georgia. Like all that is true, but they've now eclipsed that. No matter
like
where they
it's like
go,
the
it's a
Harlem
home game.
Globetrotters. The Harlem
Exactly.
Globetrotters became a national brand, a global brand. Literally,
It's the
Globetrotters.
same. It's the same exact thing though, but baseball.
All right, East Lake.
We got to get to our picks though.
East Lake Golf Club. 7,300 yards, par 70. It's 72 for the members, but the first and 14th hole are the 2 par 5s. They convert into par 4s, and what do you know? They're also the number 1 and 2 handicap holes, hardest holes on the course for these guys, highest scoring averages. So my key 3 going into this week, I already kind of alluded to it earlier with my nods about Xander, is ball striking, strokes gained ball striking, of course. Strokes gained ball striking, strokes gained putting, and then I went with strokes or good drives gained. And so and here's why. It's not necessarily deadly to miss the fairway at East Lake. We've got bent grass greens and we got some thick bent grass rough. But the good drives gained basically says, even if you do, how likely are you to still get in position? And it essentially takes, drives that are in the fairway and aren't in the fairway and just judges from there, like who's hitting it the best, who's actually getting, using those approach shots to gain strokes from the positions that they're in. And I thought that was interesting. I saw it somewhere else and I figured I'd hitch my wagon to good drives gained this week. Now, runner up, and you'll like this, par 4s, 450 to 500 yards, because like I just alluded to, we got a couple of par 5s that are converted to par 4s, and there's only 2, maybe 3 par 4s that are under 400 yards, which not super uncharacteristic for, these guys, but it is when on a par 70 course.
Yeah, no, that you nailed it for me there. Strokes gained ball striking for me as well. 450 to 500 as well, putting. So it's funny that you brought up the good drives, because one thing I didn't include as one of my key stats, but I really thought about it was driving accuracy as well, because this is a course where the driving distance is higher than the tour average course. So that's something that the guys are definitely trying to do. So you want the guys who can control that power as well. I just didn't include it as one of my key stats, but it's definitely something to look at. And then because it's 30 guys, because it's the Tour Championship, and because we're going to have guys fighting for every inch out here, opportunities gained. Like we need the guys with the nails. Who's converting, who's putting themselves in the position to convert, because those are the guys we need this week. Because there's only 30 guys out here. We need to find the ones who are going to finish in the top 10.
Who's got the stones?
Who's got the stones for it? So that's the key stats. So let's get into it here. Another thing to mention: forget ownership this week. 30 guys, just forget it. You're going to have guys 20, 30, up maybe close to 40% owned for a couple of the bigger guys. There's 1 or 2 guys that I'm willing to play who are going to be looking like around like the 10%, 15% ownership. But ownership is going to be a little wild this week. You just need to find a way to get top 5 and top 10 finishes this week if you plan on making any money.
It's more important to be accurate than clever this week.
Exactly.
It's probably always the case, but I just liked how that sounded in my head. You know what just boggles my mind, though? The Fortinet Championship will be played before the Ryder Cup. My brain was all off. I thought the Ryder Cup's not till the end of September. I thought it was in like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
All right, so
it's
back
like
to the
September
show.
29th or something like that.
I was going to ask you your opinion on leverage this week, because there was somebody who jumped out to me, and I think I am going to use him both as a budget and leverage play, and he's also in my top 10, and that's Taylor Moore. And so let's just get into it. Let's done like we do before, and just rock through our top 10, and that's not necessarily go by the the tiers, the pricing tiers, because as you pointed out, 30 guys, you just really want to try to be. It's like playing a little bit of a bingo game. You just want to be as accurate, get as close as possible. It's nothing like bingo. First
But I know what you
in my first in my model, and it's 7,000, or he's right there. I think 7,900. Got all my glasses on. Is Tom Kim. He ranks out first in my model because putting, ball striking, and apparently good drives gained. He's up there. Don't really know what that means, but like I said, I heard it from a stat somewhere else. So Tom Kim's going to get some love at 7,900. And then right after that, Xander Schauffele. Those are my 1-2 punch, and that's going to be the big chunk. I am going to spend money on Xander, and here's why. He's not too far off the starting position. And like I said earlier, he's been there. He's been here before and really balled out. He's probably not the closest. I'm not going to say that, but he's definitely top 3 horses for courses. Him and Eastlake out of this field match up very, very well. So give me Tom Kim at 7,900. Give me Xander Schauffele at 10.5. What's the top of your 10 look like?
Yeah, so the top of my 10 is actually Lucas Glover right at the top. He just comes in top 10 in all 5 categories I have here between putting, ball striking, approaches, opportunities gained, and 450 to 500 yard par 4s. And his current form, he after the back-to-back wins, he still finished T22nd this past week. So Lucas Glover, I like up there at 9,700. And then, yeah, I agree with Xander. He's number 3 in my model, and then Rory's number 2 in my model. He's right there. But look, these guys are all expensive. 97, 13, 10.5, 12.5 for Victor Hovland, 13.4 for Scotty Scheffler. Like, we got to find some guys who are going to be values, because this is one of those situations where, because of the way they start with the staggered scoring, we have to take some chances because the salaries match the staggered scoring for the most part, unfortunately, which is going to make it hard to find leverage in finishing position this week. So someone in my top 10 that I do like this week at only 8,300 is Russell Henley, who has been playing great. He's got 3 straight top 10 finishes. He's number 10 in my model. I like Russell Henley at 8,300. He's 13th in putting and then top 10 in both ball striking approaches and opportunities gained. So I like what he's doing right now. And to quickly comment on Taylor Moore, Taylor Moore's interesting to me because I think could go under-owned, low price at 6,500. My biggest issue with him is over the last 24 rounds, he's basically last in ball striking, last in 450 to 500, and last in opportunities gained. Like, there's just too many negatives for me to play him. But I get your side of the argument as well. It's just something I'm not going to do.
Fucking rolled over real quick on that.
Yes, it did. But look, some other guys in my top 10 that I didn't necessarily mention there. Ricky Fowler, 9,000. I like as well. Brian Harmon comes in at number 7 for me, 95. Tyrrell Hatton at 6,900. For his price this week, he could be a nice play. Someone who might be thinking he's playing with house money because he, as we said in his interview this past weekend, kind of assumed he was going to miss it. So maybe he's looking at this as bonus time. So Tyrrell Hatton
playing
could be
on
good there.
Basically playing on borrowed time.
Exactly. In a 6,900, we got to find those guys. We got to find those guys who are cheap, who have that ceiling as well. Because Tyrrell Hatton's one of those guys who has the ceiling to compete with your Rory, with your Xander, with your Victor. So I'm willing to take a shot on Hatton this week for that price because I have to. But I got to find some salary saving somewhere.
I love me some Tyrrell, and I hope he does well this week. But to your point on the starting position, I don't think it matters that much outside of trying to get the top 2 or 3 finishers right. And that's something where that's where it's like, I do think that I might take a second look at trying to pony up the dough for somebody who's higher on the leaderboard than Xander. But
That's a good
rounding
point. Yep.
after Tom Kim and Xander Schauffele, I've got Sung Jae M at 8,500, and I'm going to ride that because, like I said earlier, M and Kim. I said it at the beginning of the season. It's the year of M and Kim. If I see M and Kim anywhere in my model, if they're popping, and they are right here at 1 and 3, I'm going to play them. I think it's karma. I think it's fate. Right after that, I already alluded to Taylor Moore. There's my savings guy at 6,500. And I hear what you're saying about current form. I'm just hoping that, catch lightning in a bottle, or maybe all of a sudden it clicks, because he did have an embarrassing showing last week. I think he lost like 20 strokes to the field. So I'm hoping that was kind of like a shank, like a fluke, and he got it out of his system. Right after him is Victor Hovland. And if you want to build a lineup around spending $12,500, I think you could do it, but then you're almost hitching your wagon to Victor to, like we pointed out before, win the whole thing, and then hope that those kind of bottom dwellers, like I can see a Jordan Spieth digging deep and going low 3 days in a row to put himself in position for maybe a miracle. Sure. But I'm going to pass on Victor for the savings. Obviously, I can't afford him. But right after him, I like Russell Henley at 8,300. Again, not too expensive. And then that leaves me a perfect amount of money to bring on down. He's actually low in my model, but he's high on morale. Keegan Bradley.
High in your heart.
High in my heart. Keegan Bradley is going to get some love in my lineup this week, because I also think that some of these guys are playing for a little bit more than just the Tour Championship, especially a guy like Keegan, 8,100. Yeah. I think I can't remember where he's starting. Where's the current FedEx Cup points list right now? Where is Keegan Bradley on that? Because I don't know if he's high enough up there to actually really make a realistic run. Where we got Keegs? Yeah, he's at 13th. Yeah, so
I don't think he's going to make a run at winning it, but I do agree with you that Keegan's one of those guys that, because we mentioned the Ryder Cup earlier, I think he's still playing for something. I think he's got a lot of pride in his little. I don't really necessarily want to call it a comeback season this year, but it's definitely better than his last couple of years.
Comeback, yeah.
So I think he's still playing for that. I think he wants to finish it out strong. So at that price, I'm 100% behind Keegan Bradley, and especially if you do want to get into ownership, around 11% ownership in this field at 8,100, that's real good.
Well, and he's at 3 under, so he's 7 back. So it's not not unheard of. I don't think anybody's come from more than 6, and that was Rory at one of the years. But who else is right there is Russell Henley. So 2 of my guys, I am just hoping for some really good showings, and I think this is Xander's year.
So I like Xander. My biggest steal this week, as we get ready to wrap up the show here, his price is, considering how he's found this late form where he's things are clicking right now, 6,100 for Sam Burns.
Sam Burns, sorry, that's exactly where I thought you were going.
Yeah, 6,100 for him right now, and that seems outrageous, because he's a guy who has the maybe not pedigree is not the right word, but he has the game,
the power.
He has the game to be able to stand up with these guys and hang. And he was out of form for a little bit, but as you alluded to earlier, he seems to be finding it. And 6,100, that's a steal. I'm going to play him left and right because it's just too cheap.
So it's funny because I had the exact same thought when I saw 6,100 Sam Burns, because he is also being considered as a dark horse, I would say, for one of those Ryder Cup picks. And again, there's more to it. Maybe he's a great locker room guy. Maybe he gets along with everybody. But his last win was May of 22. However, 15th at the BMW, 52nd FedEx St. Jude, 14th at Wyndham, missed the cut at the Open, 19th at the Scottish Genesis. I think he's worth $6,100, but I think he's worth 6,100. Like, I think he after a top 20 finish last week in that field at that course, I think Sam Burns could get some love for 6,100. I endorse that.
Definitely. So at the end of the day here, I just rounded out my lineup to go up against you to round out the season for us, and I love it. I don't think you stand a chance against me. I'm going to bring this down, and that's just the way it's going to be. So maybe I'll ship you a box of tissues.
Wow. Aggressive. Really aggressive. I don't know if you paid attention earlier, but I just got knocked out of my other playoff. You fantasy crazies are crazy, man. Golf's a gentleman's sport.
Listen,
fantasy golf is not.
I have been doing a lot of football fantasy drafts, so maybe it's spilling over right now because I'm like this is peak season right now. So
All right, real quick
I'm in it.
before we go, who is your Super Bowl pick this year?
Well, Super Bowl pick. Honestly, I haven't even thought that far ahead. I've been so locked into just drafting right now.
Truth gun to your head?
I really truth gun to my head.
No, I'm not going to hold you to it, but like without analysis, who's going to win?
I'm gonna go the Eagles.
I like it. Jalen Hurts, run it back a little bit.
I'm very high on the Eagles again this year.
I'm gonna roll with Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals.
Mhm.
I think maybe this is it where he's going to come back from this little. I don't even know if it was an injury. Maybe it was kind of like
He's fine.
Oh no.
I think it was more of a tightness and a slight strain than anything serious. And he's going to be sitting out the preseason as very much as a precaution. But he should be fine.
Yeah,
he should be fine. If if you're curious about any other injuries in the NFL season, just check out my article with Brian Scott from the Injured List podcast, Inside the Medical Tent, because we've tackled Joe Burrow. We've tackled a bunch of the guys that you're looking to draft in your league. So get on that.
Says the fantasy football guru. All right.
Yes,
I teed you up to take us home. So finish it up.
You did. You teed me up, and then you talked about teeing me up as if when you have to explain a joke. So solid. But that's gonna do it for us here.
It was the puns. I wanted to point out the puns that were involved. Don't listen. We all know how this operates. Don't interrupt me when I'm interrupting you.
I love it. This is why we work, bud. Anyways, that is going to do it for us here on Divots and Pivots. Another Tuesday night successfully in the books here. Tour Championship at Eastlake this weekend, Thursday morning. Get in on it. And then enjoy a few slower weeks as we lead into the Ryder Cup. We'll be talking all the drama, all the stories, and all the lineups leading into that. So stick around, catch us every Tuesday, 8 o'clock, and we will see you next week here on Divots and Pivots.